There's actually too many people going to work at this hour for this to probably be a successful recording. But we are firmly in the Universes era, which feels kind of silly because we've been playing the game Universes now for a few years. The rebrand has been in since before the pandemic, I believe. Or at least, by the time of the pandemic, we had Universes card backs. But the main thing with the Universes era, it has a huge shift in design philosophy. And so, what I want to talk about today is how the design philosophy, the bans and errata list, bans things that limit future designs, right? So, things like unwavering slash were deemed too powerful because they might build a 4 difficulty asset that otherwise was only going to be seen as a one-of copy on really slow decks that could just go to the super late game and actually afford to build a 4 difficulty asset in a world where turn 2s looked almost identical to like what Godzilla's doing. Maybe not in terms of sheer numbers, right? Sheer damage output, but the idea of I'll play 5 attacks and you can only block maybe 2 of them is something that's been around pretty much since I've been playing Universes. The amount of work that you've had to do to pull that off has certainly changed over time. But what I want to talk about today, though, is a way to use the ban and errata list to buff decks. Basically, to buff older archetypes, because these are things that were deemed an issue at the time. And I think that it's true that these cards were issues at the time. But seeing where we're at now, seeing, how powerful cards like Equipment Heist are now, I think there's a couple things we could do to unban unerrata and bring some old characters, bring some old archetypes back into the fold. So the first one is Immortal Shapeshifter. Immortal Shapeshifter, of course, was considered too powerful as a life gain synergy with all of the enters discard pile, all of the sacrifice sort of packages. And all it really did was kill Ymir out of the format. It was pretty important, I think, maybe to the Hanj list, the Hanj 2, the 7 hand size Hanj list. And of course, Elder Toguro liked it. But all of those decks have completely evaporated from the format. They weren't winning everything. They weren't necessarily even like producing a ton of top cut picks. And they could be statistically just a different fold of the metagame. So the fact that Immortal Shapeshifter was good in really aggressive strategies, really late game strategies, mid game strategies, that might make it a little too good. But I mean, we don't see death sacrifice pretty much at all. The death symbol has also been kind of banned and errated or power creeped out of the format. So I think Immortal Shapeshifter could be an interesting engine piece, especially with new attuned cards coming out that might work alongside it. So I think Immortal Shapeshifter could come back, I should say. If it didn't come back, that wouldn't be the biggest deal to me. I think the other cards I'm going to talk about are probably a much bigger deal. Probably they make more sense, at least in my head. So the controversial one I'll start with first, and that's Shishi Wakamaru. Shishi Wakamaru, for those who don't know, is a 7 hand size with basically no defensive ability. Has a form commit. You can remove a momentum to play your next card without a control check. Very strong, very powerful, and it only got better with higher difficulty cards. But I think the important thing here is that we really hit the errata like before seeing it in the metagame. And we hit the errata immediately with Attack on Titan because of the fear of Colossus's Thermal Blast. Playing a 13 diff for free turn 2 is really powerful. It's really strong, it's really scary, but at the end of the day, it's just a 7 mid 7. A lot of decks are not building foundations turn 1 anyways, turn 2 anyways. I might be biased because I played Hanji at the last regional where the average amount of foundations I had in my stage was like 2 for the entire tournament. But that's how fast the format is right now. That's how quick games are. Is the deck's not trying to build foundations. It just doesn't have a lot. This mostly affects decks that want to build wide, because the scary part isn't even really the flip 5, it's the ruin. But to do that, the card has to have text, it has to have an enhanced step, and it has to deal damage. And right now, I mean, even the 9 Titans decks, you start with, Hanji starts with the 9 Titans in play, you build 1 Titans under orders. Shishi Wakamaru has no damage pump. He's going to be committed when he plays this attack. He's got some cool combos with like break-in and stuff right now. So maybe break-in is actually what puts it over the top. But I don't think Shishi Wakamaru, who would realistically have to enter an enhanced step, probably lose a card from his hand, and then play the 13 diff as his second card of the turn, all kind of telegraphing how available this is to him, would be that big of a deal. I think an even better play for him is actually the Colossus Titan throw, the 10 diff throw, because you're kind of exchanging 1 momentum for 2 momentum and a big body and that big form next turn. But this is like a 2-turn game plan. This is like a turn 3 thing at most, when games are being truly decided by turn 2 and how you set up your turn 2 and the board state you can acquire on turn 2. Not to mention you can just attack the shifted Colossus Titan, you can attack all these things. So I think Shishi Wakamaru, we could, at the very least, if you're not testing it, give it a little play test, give a unerrated version of test and see if it keeps up with stuff like Equipment Heist. Because again, this is, if we're not gonna ban, we need to buff. And Zeke Yeager shouldn't be the only guy who gets to play high difficulty cards. So I think Shishi Wakamaru could come back. He has no defense. He has no stat pump. He essentially has to get rid of a card from hand to do his whole gimmick, and it can only be done on his turn, and going second as that character is actually terrifying. So Shishi Wakamaru is my number 1 pick. Number 2, Younger Toguro. This is a slam dunk, man. Younger Toguro was hurt so much by the ban from Mop Strike and just how the format looked at the time, that giving him the commit cost at the time felt right because of how dominant he was, because his numbers were so over the top. But his numbers are just normal now, and with cards like Unyielding to keep him in check, making him commit that extra foundation really just makes him not work in a world with Unyielding. He doesn't even really have great symbols to protect against it. I mean, I guess he gets Unbreakable, right? But that's like the single solitary answer. And I don't think have we seen Unbreakable like in Top Cuts? Have we seen a deck that's like actually trying to use Unbreakable to stop from being unyielded, like see success? So maybe he could be the first, because he does have a good damage pump. He does have a really good response. But I mean, in a world where I'm building 2 foundations as Hanji Zoe, having that third is like a huge dimension. Him giving me a foundation and not killing through my damage reduction is kind of a big deal. So it just seems like his gimmick isn't that strong anymore of have a big stage, and him having the big stage has none of the payoffs that Midoriya has. It has, his symbols have way less of a payoff, and they haven't been supported, by the major power creep sets anyways. So I think Younger Toguro could come off the errata list. I think we could just have full-powered Younger Toguro, and he probably just stays like a really strong deck at your locals, Just like a really solid deck to play at your locals. And then third, and this is not really an unbanning, this is really a card that probably shouldn't have been banned in the first place. A lot of people going to work now. I wanted this lighting. I thought the sun coming up as we have a dawn of a new era of universes was poetic, but it's being ruined by the fact that I live right on the edge of a community. So everyone going to work. Anyways, the third card that probably should have never really been banned, but it died for repeated 100% sins, is Back Alley Haymaker, man. You probably have to reprint it. I don't think you can just be like, hey, by the way, your Nats promos are legal now. They have the wrong watermark. But we have a very cool opportunity to reprint promos based around the Challenger Series. We have a really cool opportunity to reprint cards in the Challenger Series. And Does Deku stop fighting in alleys? Does he stop fighting in the back of the alleys? Like, I mean, I feel like I haven't watched the show or nothing, but I feel like he's going to keep fighting in alleys, and they're probably going to be the back of the alley. So I don't know. I think that there's a really cool opportunity to bring value back to people's collections. You know, Immortal Shapeshifter is a rare from like an out of print set. So let's put the value back in people's pockets who already own it. Back Alley Haymaker is this wonderful, awesome Nationals promo, and if you want to push Spotlight, getting people interested in cool promos from the MHA era, which there are a handful. There's some misses, but overall, I think the best promos we've ever had are from the MHA era. The Erase promos, the Jolt promos, pretty much all of that whole style where you've got the comic book onomatopoeia was just an absolute slam dunk. And I think it's a slam dunk to bring back Alley Haymaker back into the format. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments below. Should we unban cards? Should we unerrata cards? Who would you like to see unerrata? I know a lot of people think Mimic should come back full power, but we're tutoring assets from our deck? No way. Knots Flask, maybe, but I hate Death Mill strategies. I think that one can stay gone. The top card of discard pile for Rodan needs to kind of be random. There was still the one-of copy at Unique in Phil's list, so I know it didn't make it onto Andrew Porat, and I don't think it made it on the Travis Tangeman's list, so it wasn't like super necessary for Rodan, but Phil Birch did run it, so it's still worthwhile even with Unique. But you let me know down below, what do we need to bring back? What characters should be unerrated, and potentially what should be reprinted as a promo?